a lot of you will not know that this current controversy between Vegan Gains and Fully Raw Christina began right here on this YouTube channel. And you may not have noticed that he has a little caption on screen saying YouTube : à-bas-le-ciel when he's quoting the videos from John Rose. Now, one reason why you would not know this is that on most of planet Earth, you can no longer see the video on my channel that addressed this. I've dealt with YouTube censorship in various forms and at various levels, and that is the most intense censorship I've ever had from YouTube. It's much more extreme than just getting a copyright strike or getting demonetized. That video is now very, very hard to find. Within the United States of America, you can still see it if you have the link to take you to it, but it will not show up in search results. Comments are disabled, thumbs up, thumbs down are disabled. Even the number of views is disabled. You can't see how many people have seen the video, and it's very hard to find. Now, incongruously, exactly the same video was carried on someone else's channel. And I'll just mention that someone else was also a white, bald male. And on his channel, it wasn't censored and it wasn't demonetized. He had to appeal it, which is normal with anything on. I just say I think there is a natural apprehension. Well, maybe when YouTube is coming and censoring this, they're just reacting to the fact that I'm a bald white male. And now another channel has carried the same video, Vegan Gains, obviously adding his own commentary and perspective, which is great. Totally happy he's doing it now. I'm certain Richard saw that video on my channel about 1.5 years ago when it first appeared on my channel. We were in Thailand at that time. Richard has seen many videos on my channel, not all, and many of his videos are influenced mine. It's great, it's fine, it's positive. But he's now taken exactly the same footage that I had on my channel that appeared on one other guy's channel, and when he's uploaded it, again, it's not just not censored or not restricted, it's monetized. He seems to be getting advertising on it. So this is an especially bizarre example of YouTube censorship. And the message of my video isn't just clear throughout. All of these sources, including Richard, it has the caption I added, it has the warning where it says on screen, I'm only quoting this in order to criticize it. Do not ban this as hate speech. Do not, I'm telling YouTube, don't censor this as hate speech. I'm the one condemning others for hate speech. I'm the one calling someone out for Holocaust now. And I've gotten just a couple of emails over the years from people who wrote in and said, that video is really important. I think one of them was somebody in Germany, and they had to use a VPN. Like, in order to see the video, they had to dial up outside of the country, but they said, look, this is really important. Like, people in Germany, people in Europe, they need to know about this stuff. They need to know about racism and Holocaust denial and anti-Semitism within vegan movements and within these health diets. And how are they going to know if this sort of thing is censored? So that's one part of the story that's interesting. And I've had a lot of responses from viewers who were genuinely interested in how YouTube censorship works. I've talked about that in the past. I don't find it that interesting, but it's part of my daily life. And I guess the truth is, if you're a viewer on YouTube, it's part of your daily life also. You just can't see how it works. You're seeing it from the outside, what it is you're seeing and not seeing, and you hear indirectly content creators complaining about it, but you don't really see what goes on. But anyway, YouTube videos get censored in many different ways and for many different reasons. This is a convenient segue. Most likely, that video was censored in the way that it was because of Corey McCarthy or the followers of Corey McCarthy, because the only other experience I have of that, now I have to explain what I mean by the word that. The only other experience I have of that, the only other experience I have where I was making an anti-racist video that was flagged and censored as if it were pro-racist, when it was completely obvious that it was anti-racist. The whole purpose of the video is to point the finger and call this out. Same purpose Vegan Gains has now. The only other experience I have with that is with Corey McCarthy and Tara McCarthy. Now, here's the strange irony. What Vegan Gains is doing right now, which I completely support, is the same thing that in the past he condemned me for. And both Vegan Gains and Ask Yourself, I don't know if they've kind of woken up out of their slumber or if they've taken a new attitude towards what they did in the recent past themselves or what. But the question Vegan Gains and Ask Yourself used to ask, publicly was, well, how can you condemn someone through guilt by association? How can you just presume that because Richard, Vegan Gains, because Vegan Gains is friends with Corey McCarthy, that therefore he supports Corey McCarthy's white supremacism, fascism, his views on religion, his views on race, his views on politics? Well, I agree, you can't presume that. But what Richard has just done now is to demand that Fully Raw Christina clarify, that she come out and say what her position is on these political issues, given that there is this political, public connection between her and John Rose. So the question is there. Now, Richard's connection to Corey McCarthy and Tara McCarthy was much more powerful than that. It's not just that they were friends. Richard appeared on Tara McCarthy's radio show. Of course, it was a YouTube show. I'm not insulting it. I just don't know why they packaged it as if it's a radio program. It was a very, very popular YouTube program. And Tara McCarthy was extremely successful. She had a huge number of viewers, and she was really connected to elite levels of the American white supremacist movement. Now, her objective, Tara McCarthy and Corey McCarthy were very public on the internet at that time that what they wanted to pursue and what they wanted to achieve was a United States of America in which the entire population was European. And I sent Richard directly, I remember I sent him in a Facebook message, a link to a video that was just Tara answering the question. It was after she had done a collab with Richard. I said, look, Richard, you're collaborating with these people. Think about politically who it is you're collaborating with. Here's Tara answering the question, if she had her way, if her political party was elected king of the United States or whatever, if they came into power, would she or would she not exile Richard? Would she exile Vegan Gains from Canada and the United States? Would she force him to go back to Africa? Because that was their political position. Their political position was they would force everyone of African ancestry to go back to Africa. And Tara McCarthy, probably this clip is still on YouTube somewhere if you want to look around and find it. Tara McCarthy answered the question, and she gave a whole bunch of caveats. She said she doesn't endorse violence, and she doesn't endorse mob rule, and she made a few caveats. But long story short, her answer was yes, that she felt people like Richard, people like Vegan Gains, should be exiled from the United States and Canada. Now, again, I talked about this at length with Isaac, with Ask Yourself. And everyone, including Richard and Isaac themselves at that time, they seemed to feel I was doing something really unreasonable. What I said to Isaac, and what I said to Richard at that time, these things have all happened over a couple of years, was much more reasonable and much less confrontational than what Richard is doing to Fully Raw Christina. Don't get me wrong, it's great. Go at him, Richard. It's fine. I totally get it. I mean, you're trying to get a reaction to Fully Raw Christina is going to be tough at the best of times. So there's really no reason to be any more, any more genteel than he's being. I sympathize with why he's using the tactics that he's using, but I did not use tactics that rough with Richard or with Ask Yourself, with Isaac. I really was just presenting Richard with this stuff. Like, look, Richard, this is the reality of who Corey McCarthy is and what he represents politically. Corey McCarthy and Tara McCarthy jointly at that time. Now, okay, sorry, there are a couple different intersecting stories here. I'll come back to the issue with Ask Yourself. If you search for these guys today, Corey McCarthy and Tara McCarthy deleted most of their internet presence, their websites, and most of their racist, white supremacist videos on YouTube. There's still some of that around. Now, why is that? Ironically, in a nutshell, what Tara was addressing, when she was asked that question, was she was asked, should Richard be exiled from the United States and Canada, given, not because he's black, her political position that was completely clear, she's a racist, white nationalist, it's completely clear. The question was, given that he is, in fact, half white, given that he's a person of mixed race ancestry. So you guys may not know, but he had his mom in his videos in the past. His mother is white European. descent. So that was why she was asked that question. It was already clear that she's racist against black people, but it's like, well, you're friends with this guy Richard. He's of mixed ancestry. Obviously, culturally and linguistically, he grew up speaking English in a Western country. Why? What is your position on this? So the irony is that the whole racist white supremacist movement that had supported Tara turned against her when they figured out that she was herself also of mixed racial ancestry. So she kept her cards close to her chest. She got to a pretty high level of success, but there were several scandals, including a sex scandal about her that came out, about her past life, before she became this right-wing racist talk show host. And yeah, Tara McCarthy was in the absurd position of being a white ethno-nationalist who was specifically harshly condemning miscegenation, intermarriage, and people of mixed ancestry, while herself being a product of miscegenation, a person of mixed ancestry. And she got to see just how nasty her movement was when it turned against her. Now, is that the whole story with Tara McCarthy? I think it's the most important part of the story. I think that Tara had to go from being a public figure to being a private figure. I think that she's not doing collaborations with the Pettibone sisters and so on and so forth for that reason. That she's disappeared because she was shamed and ashamed. She was in effect deplatformed by right-wingers. People talk about that on the left. Well, that's an example of it happening on the right. It is also true that publicly she said that she got into trouble because they were crossing borders between the United States and England, and there were questions about visa regulations and sort of government censorship being brought to bear. She stated publicly that one of the anti-Semitic groups, I don't know which one, but some legal trust, maybe Simon Wiesenthal Center or something, maybe Southern Poverty Law Center, I don't know, but one of the kind of civil rights equality groups that takes on, voices that are engaging in Holocaust denial or this kind of thing, that there was some kind of legal problem that way. And she was concerned about how this was going to impact her, I guess, her application for residency in the United States, because she talked about that a lot, that she was moving to the United States to have a kid with Corey. So she went underground after being an incredibly public figure, and I think one of the most damning traces of all was she had a book deal to publish a book with an exclusively white supremacist book publisher, a book publisher that only does that kind of propaganda, those kinds of books. And I think that book is now never going to happen. Because, she was the ultimate hypocrite. So look, I never said to Richard what Richard is now saying to Fully Rock Christina. I never said, Richard, if you see this video, you know this. I never said to you, Richard, if you don't make a video condemning Corey McCarthy and Tara McCarthy, then you are guilty of the same thing because you support. I've never said that to you, Richard. I said, hey, Richard, I'm making a video condemning Tara McCarthy and Corey McCarthy. This is what I know. Here are the facts. Here's the film clips I've got. They deleted a lot of their material back then too. They started covering up their tracks. And I said, look, I know Corey has been lying to you. I know Tara has been lying to you. This is who these people are. This is what they really represent politically. And in the video I made about PewDiePie just a couple days ago, I think a lot of people don't realize, if you just look past the facade, like, I don't know, the Brittany Pettibone or whatever her name is, if you look past the facade, I don't know, she has nice makeup and hair, like, just think for 5 minutes about what it is she represents politically. If you really just Google the names involved, really quickly you get to images of neo-Nazis with torches in front of fascist flags marching. It really only takes a few mouse clicks to figure out what kinds of organizations these people are fronting for. So Tara McCarthy really is that extreme. Corey McCarthy really is that extreme. He was pro-genocide and pro-racist of the worst kind. And both Richard and Isaac, so Richard is Vegan Gains and Isaac is Ask Yourself, were positively associated with them, positively defended them, positively collaborated with them, positively and publicly identified as their friends. So it is somewhat bizarre, but an improvement to see Richard today has turned around this way. And look, guys, some people criticized me when I made the suggestion. You can still see it on my blog in text. You can see exactly what I said to Isaac. I didn't confront him this way. I didn't say, I mean, you know, Richard, you've taken it to kind of level 10 here. You've said, hey, you know, that she must make a video condemning someone who's her friend. You never did that to Corey. You never did that to Tara. And you appeared in an interview supporting Tara's channel on her channel. I think it was an hour long at least. It was a long, long video, Richard. It wasn't like you met up with her for 5 minutes at a Costco or something. Oh, hey, how you doing? No, I mean, you really supported her overtly racist white supremacist channel. And at that time, they had their own website. And I remember sending you a screenshot of the front page. I could get that screenshot. You know, the front page and the about page. I said, Richard, do you not see what's spelled out here? Their opposition to miscegenation and quote-unquote mongoloid races. And like, just think about openly what these people say they represent. And you're the face of their movement now. You're their supporter. They're able to say, oh, they're not so racist or so bad because they have this black guy who appears in their channel. And they're getting support. They're getting an endorsement from a channel with a lot of followers. This is really black, really bleak. So I just say, Richard, I never confronted you the way that you are now confronting Fully Raw Christina. I never confronted Isaac the way you're now confronting Fully Raw Christina. When I wrote to Isaac, you can see exactly what I wrote. I said, look, man, your situation is you're not really racist. I know Isaac is not really racist. But you had a period of your life where you got drawn in by some of these racist sources. His best friend was this guy, Jack Green, who's an open neo-Nazi, even a classical Nazi, a pro-Hitler guy. You guys were associated together for ages. You were friends with Corey McCarthy. You defended Corey McCarthy against my criticism of him, and my criticism of him was completely factually accurate and correct, and your defense of him was full of lies and half-truths and what have you. Okay, so you took that position, and then you know it didn't stop there. That was the start. Isaac went into this long period where he was fascinated with sources like J. Philippe Rushton, and the bell curve and the race and IQ debates. He was going down this spiral of pseudo-scientific, I have no better word for this than scientistic racism, race theory, race and IQ theory. And he was hanging out with a lot of far-right, I can't even say alt-right. I mean, some of these people were fascists and neo-Nazis. He was hanging out with these people and they were in his Discord server and it was normalizing a lot of these views. He had a period of being fascinated with it. But I don't think in his heart of hearts, I don't think Isaac is a racist. I don't. When I talk to him about racism, I think most of the points I raised were just things he'd never thought about before. He never thought about the history of the Cree and the Ojibwe and the Mohawks. He never thought about the British Empire and colonialism and language, and to what extent language is really important and not, you know, bloodline or race. Or, you know, I raised a lot of issues to give him new thoughts and a new approach. And, you know, I think ultimately he's a kid who wants to make the world a better place. He's a kid who wants to be an activist in his own way. And through the magic of the internet and Patreon donations, he was offered this opportunity. And unfortunately, you see what he's done with it. Yeah, in some ways, what he's done is tainted by this. But what I said to Isaac, you could still see the exact wording I said was, look, man, all you have to do is make a positive statement about what your position is. You don't have to go back and apologize for something of the past, and you don't have to attack Corey McCarthy or denounce Tara McCarthy or deal with that stuff. But if you just make one video that even in passing states like what your view is on these things, positively, what it is you think is good here, you know, then it's going to set to rest, you know, a whirlwind of rumors and accusations that you're racist and that you're linked to these racists that he knew was swirling around. Now, nobody thinks that Vegan Gains is a racist, and of course, I don't think Vegan Gains is a racist. Unfortunately, in Richard's case, I mean, I can remember a time when Richard described himself as a kind of techno-socialist, when his belief was that the progress of technology, if some people, this isn't so uncommon to you, he thought that the progress of technology was going to make most forms of labor obsolete, that like factory work wouldn't be needed anymore because robots do the work. And as technology became more and more advanced, it was necessary to have some kind of left-wing socialist set up to distribute wealth because just unemployment was going to become chronic, this sort of thing. I've seen Richard speak well of left-wing causes and left-wing concerns. And somehow, I mean, whether it was that he hung out in the wrong Discord servers or listened to the wrong video game live streamers or whatever, he seems to have, for a couple of years, gotten fascinated with some far right-wing demagogues. And he's never discussed that with me. Philosophically, I mean, none of these guys read books. And this is the other problem. I feel like asking him, Melissa, you want to grab some of the books I'm reading? Don't do it. Don't do it. He's like, I read books. Here you go. Here you go. Anyone can look up what this is in Chinese. I read books. My thought and my perspective of the world is actually shaped by reading books, and that in ways both coarse and subtle. It's a very different process interrogating books as sources rather than just being influenced by YouTube videos. And now, as you guys know, I'm trying to shift this channel to be more focused on analysis of politics, news, whether those are in books or article form or what have you. So guys, I end this with just this thought. I was young once too. I was young and I was ignorant. I didn't grow up smart. I really didn't have the benefit without even getting into my family. I said stupid, offensive crap as a teenager, and I didn't know the difference between real world history and propaganda and bullshit. It's really before the internet, but, I didn't know what was true and what was false, and I was, groping around in the darkness for meaning in life, as all kinds of people do. And it doesn't stop when you're a teenager. You can be groping around in the darkness when you're 40 years old, and you can be groping around in your darkness in your mid-20s. It's, it's not like because you grow pubic hair, you suddenly become wise. It doesn't come with your molars or, the hairs on the back of your neck or anything else. It's a struggle I can relate to, and I'm cursed with a very accurate memory. So I remember the stupidity and ignorance of my youth, and I remember how hard it was to work my way out of it, and how hard it was to overcome propaganda and misinformation that I assume was true. Including some simplistic narratives that were left-wing and some that were right-wing and what have you. What's odd to me about these particular characters is that they don't seem to be intimidated the way I was and the way I think most people are. It's like, look, when I was 16, why didn't I start learning Latin? I can remember thinking about this. It was intimidating. It was scary to imagine sitting down alone with Teach Yourself Latin and learning Latin. At 16, I was confident enough to read Plato and Aristotle and, some Herodotus or some great authors in the ancient world in English. But the thought of learning Latin or Greek and looking at that was scary. That was intimidating. And I felt I wasn't born rich. I wasn't born into a family with the kind of privilege and background. I wasn't the kind of person who would learn Latin. Okay? And now I feel like I could learn Latin in 3 months. I mean, I'm 40 years old. I've worked on many languages. It seems like the easiest thing in the world. Of course, I could go to the library and get at the books and do that myself. People like Richard, people like Vegan Gains, are exactly the kind of people who are not intimidated to say, hey, they have no education in science, but they're going to go to the library or get on the internet and they're going to get detailed scientific articles and read the footnotes and figure out exactly what the scientific facts are in doing an analysis of the protein to fat ratios and different kinds of food, all the stuff he's done on nutritional science. He's not intimidated by that. He's not intimidated by picking up big, scary books off the shelf. And I think I can say this about Isaac also. He's someone who's not intimidated by textbooks on philosophy and logic and history and these thorny issues. And they're not intimidated by taking on topics that are politically edgy or scary or have big consequences. They're not intimidated by any of that. The problem is that they're groping around in the darkness, and their own arrogance blinds them to the fact that it is in the darkness they're groping. That, they didn't go through a process of, developing an appreciation for and a solid foundation in the basics before reaching out for, these more advanced, more compelling topics. That the things that they just felt motivated to publicly, take a stand on. Now, and it's not too late for either one of them. It's great to see Richard turn around and take on a topic like this. I don't know why he didn't do it a year and a half ago when my video went up, when he saw it. I don't know why he is doing it now. But hey, you can't do everything. You can't do everything all the time. It's great. But, it is a bizarre irony to see Richard today doing exactly what he used to criticize others for, and what he used to criticize me for, as being a social justice warrior, as standing up to someone and drawing a line and saying, no, it's not acceptable to have anti-Semitism like this within the vegan movement, and it's not acceptable to be making excuses for it and supporting somebody when somebody else takes that stand.